Yo-ho-ho! Welcome to Hotline FN. This is episode 6. We took a break last week, and we're a little off schedule this week, so we're not lining up anymore with Hotline seasons, weekly rollouts. But we're still here, we're still chugging along, and we still have some awesome content for you with some fantastic guests. Again, this is Hotline FN, the live call-in show for your hot takes, bold predictions, and unpopular opinions surrounding the Fortnite competitive scene. We got a super cool guest today, but first let me get in live from California, my co-host BallaTW. How are you doing, Balla?
Tim, you cut your hair. I told you not to do this. I don't know what's going on, man. Your shirt is getting more and more open.
But, you were in California. I couldn't let you just have those vibes yourself. I feel like I can shrug in double time now. All that weight's gone. This is great.
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. How about you?
Fantastic. I'm doing great, man. Just working, doing the grind, doing the show, having a good time, hanging out with my friends. So, the real stuff. All right. So our guest is, we had his duo on previously in one of the first weeks, I think maybe episode 3, if you want to go back and listen to that. He has qualified with his duo for the World Cup finals in New York City. He is qualified. Well, he's double qualified, right? I mean, this guy, you don't need much more bona fides than that at this point, right? My man, Ceice, how are you doing?
I'm pretty good.
Fantastic. What have you been up to this week, brother?
Moving home from the team house and just trying to get all my packages in. I've been taking a small little break, which has been nice, but yeah.
How long are you going to be out of the team house for?
The team house was just for World Cup, so
okay.
I think they're gonna have like a boot camp a few weeks before the finals in a different location, but yeah.
All right, rad.
Word.
Super.
Thanks for coming on, my man.
Excited to get rolling on this. So first things first, guys. We had a kind of a last minute announcement here that we can talk about a bit, and that is that the Storm Flip once again has been disabled for Arena starting today, this afternoon, and going forward through the event this weekend, Thursday and Friday. You got any thoughts about that?
I mean, it doesn't really bother me, but because I feel like no matter how late they announce it, it doesn't really cause any major problems. But it's great to see it's gone. I think it got a good addition where they changed it to a red zone, so it's a lot easier now. I think honestly it could have stayed, but it is what it is.
You think so? I think one thing that I was thinking about actually for your sake, Balla, was that this seems like a cluster when you've got multiple going off, especially in late game end zones, and a cluster without anything meaningful to really commentate off of. I don't know. That's the way I see it. Balla, were you excited to cast the Stormflip?
I definitely wasn't excited. There's no way in heck that I was excited for it. It just, it disrupts so much, both in terms of how it is. It's whenever there's one used, it's no longer a normal game, right? Especially in endgame. But I do kind of agree with with Ceice saying that it probably could have stayed. Maybe I don't want it to stay. I'm happy that it's gone, but it was one of those items that didn't. From what I could tell watching, I haven't played the game in 2 weeks, so unfortunately I haven't actually really gotten a chance to try it in comp. But from what I've watched, it wasn't worth picking up. If you were picking it up, it's because you were desperate or you wanted to grief people. When you pick, because it's a one slot, you can't use it for multiple times, so it's not really helping you get towards endgame to where it will be the most effective, right? And that will be that 8th zone, that last zone too, where you'll get the most kills using it. So if you carried it, you're basically putting yourself at risk to have high reward later, which was, sometimes okay, or you were just throwing it to grief people, which was never fine. And that's where I really feel that it was a scuffed item, right? Because you could literally just ruin somebody's game because you throw the epicenter of the storm flip on top of somebody while they're trying to rotate or while they're trying to heal, and it's over, right? Yeah. So I'm happy it's gone. And I really like the process that they went through to kind of remove it, right? Because we removed it immediately because it would have high impact. And then we tried it for a little bit. And then we decided the impact and effect to competitive is too much, so we're going to remove it again, right? Or maybe there's a bug or something like that. I don't know exactly the reasoning, but I'm very happy with how they went through that entire process.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of torn on it, right? Like, well, one thing's for certain, right? Like you said, like generally, and Ceice maybe can speak to this, but like generally more often than not, it's not worth taking, right? Like heals and mobilities, if for nothing, no other reason than to deal with other storm flips better or just more important. And the storm flip being gone means you're more likely to get useful heals and mobility out of different chests and stuff, right? Anytime an item's taken away, it shrinks the loot pool and gives you a better chance at getting all the other items, right? Especially items around the same rarity, I think. I don't know what's rolled first, rarity or what, but
I think the Stormflip for me, like, I don't know, I would never pick it up late game, but I had one time, like yesterday, I think, where I used it to rotate late. Like we were edge zone and like there's hills looking down on us, and we found one like just in a random loot pool by us because no one wants to pick it up really.
yeah.
Unless you're trying to grief someone's game. But so we literally waited for the storm. We threw it on us and sat in the storm while everyone else around us rotated and got like pinned or like pressured. And then we jump out of the out and we took like 10 ticks of damage. But I mean, I don't know if that's a super useful thing. I think it could be though. Like you could definitely like get some placement points possibly. If you know there's like if you're like on the edge and you know you're gonna die if you try to rotate, you could just throw it down and sit in their storm for a little bit.
Sure. I mean, is there value in situations like strategic value in throwing it ahead of the rotation, in a situation where you know you'll be able to rotate quicker than people, or you don't even need to, right? Throw it ahead of the rotation. It forces people out of that like prime spot for taking shots on people that have to rotate in, and then sit on a pair of campfires for the duration and then just sit in it and shoot at everyone who has to like struggle to get around it, right? Like, I think there is maybe potential for interesting plays, but they're gonna be so off the wall. And
I don't think I saw a
so
single one of those interesting plays like at all, right? In the entirety of the duration that it's been out in competitive, I didn't see anybody use it in that fashion. Like, I don't know if you saw any opportunities for that, but
no, it was just kind of just a broken item.
Perfect. Well, an item we didn't get to talk about much last week. Or, you know, we didn't have an episode last week, so we didn't talk about it at all. Yeah.
My bad, by the way, guys. My bad.
Proximity grenade launcher, right? I've got some strong thoughts here. Balla, Ceice, what do you guys think about that?
It's just a bigger. I mean, like it's a worse. I don't like. It's its own thing, right? I want to compare it to the boom bow, because it's instant random damage and it doesn't take much skill to use at all. But it doesn't do as much damage, and also it's kind of more OP in terms of the fact that you don't have to aim it pretty much at all because it homes on you, right? So that's some bull, but it doesn't seem that useful again in competitive. It doesn't seem like it's something that's impacting the scene that much. People are not carrying it that much because when you think about it, same thing with the boom bow was 2 bullets, yes, but at the same time, like you shoot one, sure, you might get some instant damage, but after that, it's useless because the person knows you have a proximity GL, right?
Yeah,
that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but like I just don't think. I don't know. I rarely see people pick it up, and if you do, you're just kind of throwing, or you have nothing else better to pick up. Like there's definitely like a better item. Like I'd probably take bandages over that thing. I don't know. It's not super good. Like unless you have low ping, maybe it could be useful because you could just get the quick damage and then get their wall. But for me, now at my home, like 40 ping, I cannot take anyone's wall, so it's kind of useless.
Yeah. I mean, like we're kind of evaluating it from the point of view of like maybe mid game and mostly in game here, right? But it's another item that someone can just like land on and just like scuff your game with little for you to do about it, right? Like. That is something that aggravates me personally about it. It just adds an extra layer of like, you can't prepare, right? You can't prepare for that. If you're having a good time in your house in Pleasant or whatever, and someone just like pops a couple through the window, like they're having a bad time, right? You can't build to stop it from blowing up on you because it instantly blows up as soon as it gets close, right? Like that's something I find frustrating. And then
Definitely can see the frustrating parts of it early game, but it doesn't do 100 damage like the Boombo, so it's not like you're instantly out, right? And you should be able to react to a second
first
one
one,
coming
yeah.
through, and then probably recover from there, right? You never want to be putting yourself in situations in early game where one person can find something and then be able to kill you off bat because you're trying to spread yourself enough. But obviously there's always the situations where you can't really control what people do. So yeah, it's definitely a frustrating weapon in early game, but there are so many of those, and I think right now it's kind of, I don't want to say it's okay because it's definitely not, but like we can deal with it in a certain sense.
Yeah, I'd much rather would have this than a Boombo, because Boombos are like silent and you just can't really tell where you're getting shot from, or if like you can't see it very well, like you just kind of get hit, and it's like also a proximity thing, so you could be like not even peeking in and it hits you. It's like this, you pretty much, I mean, it has a loud audio cue and you can almost react to it before it hits you, like every time,
depending on distance. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Another interesting comparison to the Boombo, right, is like if it gets picked up either during a late rotation out of desperation or just because you got the slot, or basically the Boombo isn't as effective, I feel, as I mean, the proximity grenade launcher lets you take height. It can often let you take height, right? Like we've seen plenty of clips where someone just like pops it up over the top of a tarp, gets 140 damage in on somebody who wasn't expecting it. You can say that's a skill thing also though, right? Like you shouldn't have taken more than the 70. But late enough in, like that can be more than enough, right? Shoot that up there. They've got a box up that gives you plenty of space. It doesn't do a ton of build damage, but you just have to shoot it up like at an angle up over the tarp, and you're gonna hit them, right?
I feel like the angle you want like is rare. I feel like, I don't know. Maybe for me, like the way we play, I don't know. I don't think we get into the angle where like, I don't know. It's just like, I don't think I could ever find a time where I'm looking for that angle, like where they're on a single tarp and I'm like right below them. I could shoot to the side and hit them. I guess maybe, but I don't think I would rather have that gun than like, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like the opportunity is better spent to just full on build fight somebody and actually take height, because if you're spending the time to take it out, right, it has the pull out time, it has the shooting time, the actual reaction time for the other player, and then from there it's more like a support item. So one person could be going and push it, and then the other person is using it. But I would never really see those situations in solos, or when you're 1v1ing someone, where the proximity gel would end up being used in that way. Sure, you can get instant damage, but from there, you're going to get pressured, and you're going to lose that angle, right? Because you have to move with the storms.
Yep.
So, I don't know. The better thing out of the proximity gel patch is the fact that we don't have the Boombo, and there was a couple of vaults that were really, really good. So
yeah, we can talk a little about that too, right? Like, so we lost. What all did we lose? We lost the dual pistols, lost the Boombo, and
they're all gonna be back. You guys see I don't know if it's true.
Oh, Ceice, don't do this to me, man.
Here we are.
14 days of summer.
Here we are.
I forgot about this, dude.
They're all gonna be like, I can't name 14 items that like they have to. There's maybe like in the mid to maybe high 20s of items that have been vaulted like since the start. I don't know. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, so me and Tim were talking about it. Like, is it 14 days? Like cumulatively, are we going to get the boom box? Are we going to get the sword? Are we going to get everything in the game at one time, or is it going to be one day it'll be unvaulted dualies, or one day unvaulted swords, or whatever?
And then just it revaults like the next day, just trades out every time. It doesn't keep adding, because I was thinking it's just going to keep adding and adding, which was actually really scuffed the loophole. So I don't see that happening. Actually,
I really hope it trades out. Here's the thing: if you want to be optimistic, right, and they're just throwing these in solos or something, right? then it's potentially.
If you want to be optimistic, okay, we're already on a bad trail.
Yeah. If you're willing to be optimistic about it, and they're only putting it in solos, in some ways this could be a really interesting way for them to test like future editions and permanent unvaults, right? They make a change to dualies, a significant change, unvault it for a day, collect stats and data, go on to the next item the next day, right?
Yeah, maybe.
But then worst case scenario, it's all coming into arena, and it's going to be involved in weekly events, and then it's just a disaster. It's just a disaster,
It's
right?
too much loot. There's just You would never. This is not gonna. It would not happen. There's no way. I can't imagine. I think the best thing will be. I actually don't think. I feel like a lot of times, maybe I'm just like extremely optimistic, or like I don't know. But I feel like a lot of times with these updates, like whenever they have something that's like considered broken or like seems really OP, I feel like it's not. Like I don't. It takes a couple days to get really used to it, but then you're just fine. Like it's not that bad. I can't really name. Maybe like the sword was like extremely busted, and you'll never get used to that thing. But like I don't know, like boomboxes and just like the bow and like anything that's came out, I just feel like
Yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
that's our nature as competitive Fortnite players, right? Is the fact that we literally have to adapt and play whatever game we have because we can't get over the fact that the game is so good otherwise, right? In terms of everything else, so we just adapt, and you know, that is a motto of our scene, and something that they like to force on us. But on the flip side, right? There's been things that have been okay when they come out on launch too, and then 3 weeks later they're the dumbest item ever, like, or they get buffed or changed or whatever, like clingers, for example. Those
Yeah.
were absolute chaos. Once everybody realized you could throw them at walls and break through and whatever, like
Yeah, well,
instant damage that
here's the
way.
thing. Like, people always claim, like, Epic needs to, like, test stuff better before they put it in. But there's such a wide array of mechanics in this game, and that they develop a lot of items in a really interesting way, and that they allow it to... They're really open-ended. I mean, I just remember, like, early launch pad mechanics, right? With bouncers, as people were discovering ways to super launch, and now we have ways to, like, launch like
God, I
downwards,
miss
right,
that
with like the
so
right
much,
cones and that kind
man.
of stuff.
Yeah, that was
And
nice.
almost every new item like has these sorts of weird interactions with other mechanics in the game. So yeah, I
Just
totally agree. Some
imagine
thinking,
super launching right now with bouncers and launch pads and competitive
oh
Fortnite. We'd
It'd be
get
gosh,
fucking
nice.
crushed.
oh
No, we'd
man,
get L2'd so hard everywhere.
I think it'd be good.
it was fast though, right? That's important to remember. Like super bouncing was faster, not just higher, but also faster than like regular launches.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still just gonna get shot.
Well, here's the thing though. Like in terms of testing an item, right? There's almost always situation. The example today, the storm flip, is just such an obvious like testing curve. Like, okay, let's test it in arena. Okay, is it good in arena? Okay, cool. Let's try to test it in World Cup. Obviously, we didn't get to that stage, but maybe we could have tested in World Cup. It doesn't work that well. Let's take it back. Let's make some changes. Now let's add it back again. Like, there's so many obvious, like, very clear ways to test things that it's surprising that they haven't been doing that before. And they did it with the drum gun, and that's pretty much the only example I really have besides the storm flip. But like, the difficulty in that process is that there are also so many different stages to test it in, right? There's casual play, which almost always is, it's fine and casual, whatever, it doesn't matter. There's arena, right? Because arena is certainly a different game mode all in itself, right? It's just
Yeah.
higher skill pubs. And then there's, the actual competitive environments. And then there's the real competitive environments like finals in New York, right? And there's all going to have different impacts on all the different types of game modes, right? Stormflip might not be as terrible in arena as it would be in New York City finals. If one person out of 60 carries a Stormflip to half in, half out, then suddenly everything goes to shit, right? So it's hard to do that. I struggle to see a good way to do that without a real tournament using it as a test bed.
I agree. That's very true.
Do you feel like when they were doing test customs with payouts that was a valuable testing format?
Yeah, that's how we found out that Siphon was a good thing in competitive, right? They immediately tested it in customs, and that was where I started my fucking casting, right?
Yeah.
And it was immediately clear to me that this was the way to play competitive, just based off of the Mat Cap and Siphon alone. And Winter Royale went off to be really successful until NA, obviously. We don't talk about NA, that never happened.
It happened.
So
remember. Whatever.
Wait,
date
EU
that
didn't have a
was.
sword, did they?
No.
Exactly. You didn't have a sword, they didn't have planes. It was the best tournament of all time.
Oh my God.
Easily. Don't fight me on that. I mean, quote me on that or whatever. It's very easily the best tournament of all time because there's no issues besides lag. There's still server lag back then.
Yeah. We were still in the process of getting significant server upgrades and performance passes across everything, right? Building in games, all of it basically, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely a good event. I think that this is, it's hard because you want to say like, yeah, like this is a fantastic like testing curve, like you said, for like getting this item in. They brought it into arena and they said, no, it's still not good enough for like, this ain't it, fam. Like they took it out, put casuals only, and then progressed up. And obviously we didn't make it to the World Cup stage. There's still improvements to be made on that curve. Like we said, like hitting customs of some form, right? Limited testing events with these sorts of items, jack the spawn rate way up and let people have at it, right?
Oh, the turret was a good one too. The turret, we immediately were testing it in customs and immediately got nerfed because in customs it was clearly like ruining everything. That was back when we were doing the first couple of pop-ups as well. Turrets legit ruined those games. Like
I don't remember what was wrong with them. How are they OP?
They overheated forever. The hitboxes were completely fucked, so you couldn't actually snipe anybody in them, and they did crazy damage.
You couldn't, as hard as it is now to hit someone like front on, you just couldn't before. If the turret was looking at you, you couldn't hit them. And even if you were in like a 30-degree like radius of the front of the gun, you couldn't damage them at all. Had a lot more health. It had, and it took a lot longer for it to overheat, right? Yeah.
The pop-ups, like initially when pop-ups came out, I'm pretty sure they said this is going to be a place to test new things and new ideas. And I think we only really tested like 3 things, right? We tested Storm Surge, we tested Siphon, we tested different variations on Siphon, and we tested like match dropping on inventory or going into your inventory, right?
There was also the Architect Cup.
Oh, true.
Oh god.
Yeah. Which is coming back, right, as the builder's paradise.
It's an LTM kind of a thing. Yeah. Why? What are your thoughts on that, Ceice?
No one
it's an
wants
LTM,
to
right?
play that.
Yeah, I don't know. Increased mat cap, I guess, is like the benefit. I don't know. You got me. I have sort of this theory.
Like that sort of thing is fun in a mode like by itself that I will never play, and that some people will have fun playing. Like it'll be fun for them, and I'll never touch it.
It's different teams and stuff. Like I can't like really hate on them too much. I honestly think I was talking with Balla about this, that because we have 2 LTMs coming, right, that have been leaked, and they're kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum. One is increased mat cap, increased building health. Anyone can edit it, and then on the other side, we're getting severely reduced mat cap, slower farm rate, but like brick and metal have more starting health or something like that, right? So I think it's going to be all about data collection, right? We've seen a lot of these how do you feel about building surveys going around, which don't mean anything in a bubble, but alongside this, it's probably just another way for them to gather feedback and hopefully maybe like encourage a little bit of skill build up within the regular casual or pub community.
Well, so you're going to play those modes? Because I sure ain't. So let's move on.
Yeah. Not the target demo. Not the target demo. All right, let's bring in our first caller. Hey, how's it going?
Hello. How's it going?
Pretty great.
What's up, Henneke? How you doing, man?
Whoa. You jumped the gun. Where?
Whoa, sorry.
What's your name? Where are you from?
Sheesh.
I'm from Toronto.
Toronto. Henneke from Toronto. Dope. This is your third time calling in?
First time.
My bad.
Yeah,
I won't forget.
It's okay.
We know you though, man. We know.
Yeah.
What's up, man? What you got for us?
Okay, so I was wondering, a lot of current strategies that are being discovered, like as we discover new strategies, a lot of people are finding a lot of new ways to get into boxes and aggress onto people who are trying to play more defensively. I was wondering what you guys thought of how new strategies are making it harder to play as a defensive player, and if there's any like new ideas you guys might have for items that would help someone trying to play defensively to counter aggress, because I think that'd be a lot of new items and strategies are kind of hard on defensive strategies, I think.
Henneke, are you asking for more stink grenades?
No. I think stink grenades are pretty good for pissing off someone playing defensively. I don't know. I get kind of pissed.
No, not healthy for the game. Good for pissing somebody off.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, man. We're gonna get into this one.
All right.
Cool. All right. So obviously, like stink grenades are an obvious shoe in here, but I think it is like generally obvious, especially like 3 months ago, right? Like almost every week Epic was trying to find ways to encourage fighting in the mid game, right? Like that was like their goal with so many item additions. It was their goal with Siphon, like Siphon existing at all.
Siphon explodes through walls. That's all I can think of right now.
Cash payouts for getting kills during the mid game in a specific
Architect
set of
mode was all-
time, like
Yep.
at like packs and stuff, right? So
I
I mean,
that was rough.
yeah, right. So they're obviously are very invested in encouraging more fighting, right? Which I don't know if I have a problem with that, generally speaking, as long as there's actual, like, I don't think throwing money at people for getting kills in the mid game and jeopardizing the win is like.
I think you have to in a battle royale. Like, I've watched a lot. Like, I've played and watched a lot of battle royales over the last few years, and like, you literally have like I think it's more like a viewer side of thing, and it's not bad for the players, but like, you kind of need that. Like, it's just gonna be boring if you just don't have mid. It's just all placement. Like, it's just not.
It's boring to watch. It's boring to play.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's not too bad, to be honest.
Well,
Yeah.
so there's a difference between incentivizing fighting and fighting in the mid game and fighting for actually winning the event or tournament or whatever it is, and giving people tools to break into boxes who are playing defensively, right?
Yeah.
And there definitely can be, styles of both, but I think overall it's better for the game if everybody has to play the same way, right? I don't like these situations where Aiden can be, Aiden and Nick Merckx and TwitchCon can be winning the tournament by basically W King every single person in the lobby, when you legit are playing against 100 other people and you have no idea whenever you're going to run into Nick Merckx or Aiden, and that could ruin your opportunity because you're playing a certain way. I don't like that. I think Epic does. I think we've seen that through the types of formats that they've kind of pushed. But yeah, so there's definitely a difference between incentivizing kills and fighting and giving the people the tools. And right now, I think we're in a good space, besides the fact that ping is very reliant. And I think we've talked about ping in the past, but there's a lot of tools to get into people's boxes. I think I would like one of those solutions to nerf turbo building slightly in terms of like adding a cooldown or making it so that you can eventually take a wall or something. But there's plenty of ways, right? There's explodes, there's stinks, there's phasing tricks, which we can argue all day probably about whether that's an exploit, whether it's good for the game or whatever. But I'm in favor of the phasing tricks because I think it's cool. It takes skill and it's counterable, right? There's always a counter, and I think that's the most important key to what they need to do and what we need to be pushing as a community for breaking defensive players is, does it have a counter? Can you counter it? Because stinks you cannot counter except by preparing, right? Once it happens, you have to react. You have to do it. And unfortunately, I'm not a huge fan of that, right?
I agree. I would like. I was talking to Tim about this earlier, but like the fact that they're introducing items in the game that have no counter, and like there's literally nothing you can do against like stinks. There's nothing you can do. Like, I don't know why that's a competitive item. I feel like you could put it in its own small playlist, but I don't understand like why that's in the game.
Yeah, we were talking
Same
about
thing
it.
with Klinger's instant damage, right? Same thing.
Yeah, or even the boom bow, right? Like it's arguable that they have the stinks cost you on the receiving end more than the boom bow, depending on the place in the game and what your inventory and your materials look like, right? Because stinks force the loss of 2 resources, right? You're losing health, some amount guaranteed, and you're using mats, right? Like depending on the point in the game. Obviously, if it's early enough and you have the opportunity to just walk away, sure. But similar to Storm Flip, 9 times out of 10, you're losing health guaranteed, and you're spending resources, right? At least something like the boom bow is just a huge chunk of health. Obviously, it's a huge chunk of health, right? But that like sort of doubling up effect is just like feels super bad, right? Like I have to use my main aggression and defensive tool just to react to something that already hurt me, right? Like it's not like an actual counterplay. It's just the thing I have to do to stop myself from dying, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully the new, I think his name's Nate Nanzer. Hopefully he can work things out. Is his name Nate?
Yep.
Is it Nate? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully you can make it so competitive is a lot more balanced, but I don't know.
I think you kind of touched on something a little bit, Balla, right? And this has to do with sort of the pop-up testing and stuff, but I would really love to see more mechanic options explored for rewarding or just options for getting into boxes, right? Or breaking through defensive play styles that aren't item dependent, right? Because then it's still the way to play the game is defensive and hope that your opponent doesn't have the item that lets them play aggressively, right? I'd prefer it to be a set mechanic that is like, if you do these things, if you utilize this tool, whatever that everybody has, this is the counter to defensive building, right? And in the age of like when it was all just when everybody was build fighting, right? And especially like in casuals, right? The built-in mechanic to defend against that is to drop down and break it, right? But you don't have an option like that for someone just turtling on the side of a mountain, right? Like you don't have that option against someone who's just going to box up. And then all we have to rely on are these sort of phase tricks and stuff. To Epic's credit, they haven't like put a ton of time or effort, it seems, into like fixing those, removing them, right?
Yeah, but they need to be clear about whether it's an exploit and bannable and all
They
that
do,
stuff, because there's still a huge question right there.
I don't know if there's a punishment behind that, but I feel like there was some, like, I remember cone peeking in the Winter Royale, I think it was. People were like really like scared to cone peek. And like I remember like watching like the EU Winter Royale and like seeing someone do it, like, oh, this is not good. Like he could get in trouble for this. But I guess like
wait, like what do you mean by cone peeking?
Like sitting in one by one looking through your cone. I feel like I'm pretty sure that was like I don't know. I feel like people didn't like that, or like I don't know. I read somewhere, so I don't know what I saw, but maybe
no. But it speaks to this sort of fear of like, if they're not clear about these things that feel as a player, like they feel good, you want it to be an actual mechanic, but because of the way it's like not actually implemented to do that, it puts this big question mark, like you said, of like, am I allowed to do this? Like it's the only way to accomplish, the goals for how I want to play the game, right? But like, am I gonna get in trouble?
I think like a lot of these bugs and whatever, like glitches and exploits and whatever phasing, like I don't think anyone's gonna get punished for it, but like it's just the sooner you find it out, the better, I guess, because you'll be able to use it against people. Because there's so many that's come up, and I don't think anyone's received any punishment. I don't think they will. I think they'll just label it as like a bug, or they didn't, like, I don't know, they didn't know it was gonna happen or something like that. So yeah.
The fact that they've left in the game for so long is pretty, and we have not heard of any case of anybody ever getting banned from using a phase trick. Makes it pretty clear to me that they're probably okay with it until it becomes like they're leaving it open to be like, yeah, okay, now it's bad. Now we're just gonna fix it, and like if you use it, you're bad. Like they're leaving it open and seeing kind of where it's gonna go, because eventually it could get to a point where everybody uses it so much that it's not even fun to do it anymore, right? It could still get to there. So it's kind of, I kind of see why they might leave it open. Or they just also don't have a fix that they could even possibly come close to implementing. And I think that is a very, very complicated issue to fix, the phasing, because it's both an intended mechanic and also ends up in unintended consequences. I feel like there definitely are some solutions to defensive fighting, and I would like to see them try some things, especially now because ping is such a hot topic and taking walls is such a hot topic. And it really does push you at a disadvantage if you can't do that with the formats that we have.
Yeah, I honestly, like, I feel like I might regret this statement, but I would not mind the old Deagle. Like, I feel like with ping, it needs, I don't know. Finals at World Cup might be different, but for these, like, having a Deagle that can one-shot walls, like, would be kind of nice, because everyone's like on the same ground. But I don't know. Deagle was pretty.
Deagle was strong, when you go to
New York City and there's a Deagle in the game that can break off all structures instantly, you are
from like basically any range.
It was only wood though. It was only wood, so like there is a counter to it. Like you just build out of metal. So like I don't know if it was really a bad item, or brick. Yeah, I feel like it wasn't that bad.
The problem
was
though
didn't
is
really
that
know what they were doing.
It's still one shot brick or metal if they were like under 75% of the way through building.
Yeah,
right?
I feel like they could. I don't
But
know.
if they had a way to create an item that was not HP dependent, you know, and just strictly looked at the material type and was like, if this is brick or metal, I'm not going to be able to break it, and it will only break, it'll break wood of any like build status, but only from up to 2 tiles away or something like that, right? I think there's some really still unexplored design space for tools like that. But it kind of harkens back to, I would still rather have something that's not an item, something that just everybody always has, something you can plan around and depend on, both as the defender and the
This
aggressor.
reminds me of the glider redeploy debate. You know, like,
Yeah.
oh, we need mobility and blah 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 blah, and we need mobility that's non-RNG based and whatever. But I think right now we kind of moved to a point where it's still RNG based, but it's still okay, right? And unless other people would disagree, I feel like that mobility debate is kind of ended, and it's still item based.
Yeah, I think that what they're doing right now for mobility, like having, well, it's. I don't know if they're doing this on purpose. I feel like they're not. I feel like it's just going with whatever season theme they're doing. But like, they're like obviously the season there's like this tunnels and like the little drones. So like that's like pretty much mobility. Like that's similar to glider redeploy in the sense like you're gonna have mobility pretty much across the map.
Very
Yep.
true.
And there's still item mobility, like item RNG mobility. So I think like it could change next season. There could be like, it could be the, I don't know, the shipwreck season and there's just nothing on the map. Like, but I mean, I guess I hope not. I mean, well, I guess we'll see. I don't know. Like, what was last season?
Last season was
like what was mobility items?
Volcano vents and
volcano
volcano
vents.
itself.
So maybe they are like trying to follow a like.
Pattern, they
so.
definitely are. Like they've removed rifts. Zip lines have gotten smaller and smaller. They completely removed the corrupted zones and stuff like that. So there's definitely almost always something mobility focused every season.
And we've gotten more and more and more. Like obviously this one is the most packed full. And you can maybe argue that last season had less mobility than the season prior if you don't count ballers, if you just count like static.
Well, no, we had
elements,
planes in season 7, so that's probably the most mobility filled season.
Sure, but I mean, if you remove vehicles from the equation, you just had way more rifts and you had way more zip lines.
True.
And that maybe rivals last season, but this season's the most, I feel like, by far. Like just by far, this is the most mobility we've had on the map.
Well, anyways, my point was that item RNG still comes into effect, especially late game. It was that was the biggest argument. It was late game, you always needed a rift to go or something like that, or a grappler back then, and people were like, if you don't have one of those, you're fucked. But now, even though it's still item based, you still need to have shadows, you need to have a rift to go, you need to have launch pads or something to survive through late game. But it's now fine. Like people are not complaining about mobility end game anymore. So that's what I'm saying, right? So I don't necessarily think we have to have a non-item RNG based way to get into somebody's box, right? I think having an item RNG based way is totally probably okay. I think we've proven this through mobility, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be an item RNG. So that's kind of where I was going with that.
I think like with the comment that you made about like how if you don't have a grappler, if you didn't have a grappler back in the old days, like you were dead. I actually wish I could go back because I know like my mental and like my attitude towards like not having items that I need or like not being as set as I can be has definitely changed. I wonder like, because I know like Poach, and I'm curious like Poach's like what his mindset was and stuff back then when he was like dominating in tournaments and in customs and stuff. Like I remember being so like negative and like I'm dead, like I don't have a grappler, I don't have a jump pad, like, but I had mats, like it was a more mat cap. I feel like there was a quad launcher and a lot more like explodes, so it might have been a little different, but I don't know. I feel like my mindset
and
now.
The differences were different and stuff like that too.
Weren't they shorter though?
Yeah, they were shorter.
So I don't know. I really don't know.
But. So some differences were the zones were shorter, more explodes and everything. But just like you said, right, your mindset was different, and also people were not used to mat cap yet, and they were not used to like back then. Like when mats were dropping on people's bodies, or we didn't even get mats off of kill, like that was
everyone
there
was
a period
complaining
of time that was a thing. People were complaining like crazy about item RNG, but I feel like what you're saying is true. If we ended up taking the people now and placing them in that patch, they would have probably been okay.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of that though is also the philosophy has changed, where we have like kill incentive is understood now, right? We understand that getting a kill early game or mid game is so important to your survival and end game because you need to find mobility. I think that is much more understood, and people are way more comfortable with that, and they end up in end game with more mobility now, so it's less.
Yeah, I think that's I feel like that's why Poach and Bizzle and all those guys like did really well back in the day. Like they like, I mean, it's like anything in a game. Like if you're smarter than somebody, like you're gonna dominate. And so I feel like this is, I don't want to get into this, but I feel like I've yet to find like my strength or like my gap in competitive. I feel like I'm just always neck and neck. Like I'm obviously looking for it and trying, but I don't know. Like I want to be someone who can be like Poach and Bizzle to like just 100 IQ or 200 IQ everything like before it even starts.
Before it blows up, be ahead of the curve.
Yeah, they were so smart, like rotating and all that stuff, and like I just was such a peanut
Vivid
brain.
comes to mind in Summer Skirmish where he would literally not stop W King until he got bouncers, and then once he got bouncers, he just won the game like every
Exactly. Yeah. Like I don't know. It's hard to find that.
We'll have those moments. We'll have those changes and opportunities to. I think that's something that's clear in this game is that is going to be found multiple times. I think right now it's the fact that Dubs and Clicks and people like that have figured it out. Like we can take walls and we're gonna win because of that, and we're gonna use our advantage to put ourselves in that position, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Here's something we haven't talked about. Another new item, Chug Splash, right? I think. Listen, it could suck, right? I don't think it sucks, but it could have sucked eggs. It could have been the worst healing item in the game, and I still would have been so happy to have more heals in the loot pool, right? Like, especially like this whole new item.
Great.
Oh, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
Perfect. It's so good. It adds so many elements. I cannot wait for fucking trios and squads with the Chug Splash. And like maybe some even more like interesting, like, oh, I can heal my teammate with it. Like now we literally have a healing. We could have a healing role. Like that idea blows my mind that we could have a healing role in Fortnite. I know it's not there yet, but like imagine one guy playing support and being the guy who carries all the heals that he can throw at his teammates. And during a build fight, he's fucking throwing Chug Splashes at his teammates. Like that is so cool to me and so exciting. This item is a start to that.
Yeah, I think the Chug Splash certainly just isn't there, just by dint of if you're standing still in a fight long enough to have a teammate hit you with a Chug Splash. That's probably not worth the 20 hit points in most situations. But it does open the door to some really cool possibilities, like you said, and maybe paints a picture of a potential future. I mean,
somebody can be really good at it and throw it and add and catch you as you're moving.
I guess I would love someone to prove me wrong on that. Like that, if you were good enough with your duo or with your trio to pull off that kind of stuff mid fight, like, then hella, like that sounds great.
A negative or like an OP side of it would be like heal loss. I was watching like Dubs, and he was late game and he used it as a heal off. Like it can't I feel like that's just like gonna be so OP. I don't know what it gives you 20 HP. Like that's a lot in the final zones. 120
hit points total, yeah.
Like
for
that's
next
OP, and it's like there's no cooldown, so maybe a cooldown would be nice. But like having 2 campfires, so I feel like that's like the average amount. Maybe 1 campfire and 4 of those things. Like you're pretty much gonna win. Like it's pretty OP.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's a good point, right? That's a consequence of it healing white, and I don't think anybody wants. Well, here's this question: do we mind heal offs being a strategy from time to time? Right? I don't want to go back to every game being a heal off, but like, is it so bad that is a viable, path to victory if you get the right loadout leading into endgame?
I want to hear Ceice's on that first.
I think heal offs are pretty dumb. I think it's I don't know, like I can't think of something that would be better. I know they had like the zone breaking builds, but I don't think much has been tested to stop heal offs. But I think heal offs are pretty stupid. It's like if you have the right or you just I don't know, just you got to have like the perfect loot and you got to not get psychoed and just you have to get in the perfect spot. Like you just I don't know, it's just so random. It's so random, and every like items and then where you are, if some guy decides below you decides he wants to push up and now you're getting pressured, like it's pretty random unless you're on height, I guess, but still I don't know, I'm not a big fan.
So I agree that to some extent it is random, but there was my competitive experience was brought up in FMPO back when Heal Off meta was in full swing, and we always went to find vending machines with med kits and fucking find campfires, and literally would have 17 people healing
I remember
off.
spamming your
And
chat with Matt. If you start the
Yeah.
med kit at this much, and then
exactly.
drop the campfire.
Yep. And I found that actually very fun as a competitive player because when everybody was going for it, it ended up being actually pretty skillful because it's based on who can set themselves up the best and who can put themselves in a position to actually heal off effectively. And I thought that was interesting. I did not think that was fun to watch. I feel like we probably could have gotten to a point where speccing that would have been interesting, but when you add kill incentive to heal offs, it all of a sudden becomes so fucking random, exactly like Ceice says, where half the server is looking for kills and half the server is deciding, okay, I'm going to try to bandage in my zone, right? I'm going to try to off heal. And so it's like completely random because there's still 6 people up and 3 of them are going for kills and 3 of them are going for heals. And there's no time to really figure out what the situation is and how you're going to win. So it's completely random, right? But some of the best moments in competitive Fortnite history have been heal offs. I will recall Zayt and Saf winning week 3, where Zayt was pushing down and Saf was healing, and Zayt ended up clutching against the team that was going for the counter heal off against them.
Or the Rift play. That Rift play was pretty good at ESL.
Yeah,
where Saf ended up healing. He started healing. Yeah, that didn't go off to a full heal off because the other team wasn't ending up healing. But yeah, that moment itself is I'm gonna outlast you, right? And I consider that a heal off to some extent too. And then I will think about the AO moment where Jesse ends up going against I think it was Vince, Mind Freak's Vince, and he was going for his 3rd win, and he ended up healing off on super high ground and actually canceled his heal off or something like that, something crazy, and it was so awesome. So there have been amazing moments, but there have also been really, really fucking flat moments, like TwitchCon, where off heals became a thing because 8 HP zone, right? And I think the first 2 wins were literally off heals at TwitchCon. Yep. It was terrible. It was the most deflating thing ever, and it was players that people didn't really know. People who followed the scene knew who they were. The team guys, Patek and his teammate Dementos, I think it was.
Dementos,
so I don't know. I feel like Chug Splash he loves could be fucking cool, right? Like all of a sudden you hear this guy splashing himself. I don't know. I kind of want to see it, but at the same time, I do want them to just fucking finish this whole idea of any sort of heal off at all and just make the zone keep going forever. Like, why does it have to stop? Why does it have to close? Like, this has been such an obvious solution to me forever for heal offs. Like, why does the zone have to close? Just let the mats run out.
That's a good point. Yeah, eventually everybody runs out of mats. Yeah, no matter how many mats you have, eventually you're running out. I mean, yeah.
There's still some strategy there too. I think it'd be the best option, or one of the best options. I think the fact that you can heal off on the move is pretty broken.
Yeah.
Like you don't have like with the
true.
new like I don't know what it's exactly called, but it's just broken. Chug Splash. It's so broken. Like you could have a lot of them too.
But if the zone didn't close, it wouldn't matter, right? Because if a guy wants to run alongside zone to try and make a nutty play with his 6 splashes, like whatever, that's fine because the other guy gets to just walk in the zone the whole time, right? Like, yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I think that's a fantastic
zone
take.
Plays are also one of the like sickest moments of all time too. 72 hours at PAX West, jumping in the zone and getting the flank off somebody. So like that is awesome with Chug Splash, the potential there with Chug Splashes, and even to some extent the zone flip or the storm flip, like throwing it and going into zone and getting an unexpected flank on somebody is so cool. And the potential with the Chug Splashes is cool to do that too.
Yeah. I think that's a fantastic take. The idea of just don't close the zone, keep it at like a single player width. You know, don't go all the way down to the weird little needle. Right, it still needs to be visible and make sense and playable, right? But I think that fixes. I don't know if there's like a huge problem right now, especially pre-splash, that it like necessarily fixes, but it also opens up a lot of design space for more healing items and more interesting tools. that doesn't currently exist, right? Like,
I can't wait for the moments that Ceice is talking about, because I personally haven't seen them much in customs yet. But happening at World Cup or qualifiers, for somebody to qualify because they were smart and realized that they needed to carry 6 Chug Splashes to end game to win the game is fucking awesome, and I can't wait to see that. I don't want to see it going forward. That's one of the things that is awesome about this game, is there could be a week where there's a cool little new niche technique that might be a little OP, but only one person has figured out how to do it.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah, for better or for worse, right? I mean, that's a pretty loaded statement in of itself, right? I mean, I guess like the benefit of knowledge, right? The benefit of being ahead of the curve is strong, but when it's only because this thing is broken that position on the knowledge curve matters, right? That's never a feel good moment for anyone not on the curve, right? It doesn't become like, wow, he's smart. It becomes, he used a broken thing, right? Like it's how people, I think in a lot of ways incorrectly, view Som even to this day, right? Like, Som's not a good player. Obviously he's proved that wrong. He just was the guy who knew how to use the sword better than anybody else, right? Like, you want to avoid those sorts of situations.
Yep, I agree.
Cool. All right, let's get our next caller in. Hey, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello, I'm Bepsy. I'm calling from Virginia.
You have a phenomenal mic.
Thank you.
Yeah, 0 ping.
0 ping.
What do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about in-game coaching. I'm sure you guys probably saw or like heard about the video that Bucky posted, where it's called "How My Dad Qualified Me for the World Cup." Basically, where his dad is just in the call with him, helping him make decisions, keeping him calm, and that kind of stuff. And I was wondering why that's not, done more, especially with players who are like mechanically good at the game but struggle with decision making. How come they don't get someone who's like super smart, like in a call with them to help them make decisions in game? And to like what extent could this be done before Epic has to step in and say like, hey, this is cheating or something like that?
I think this is a phenomenal topic, and we are going to get into it. Thanks, Pepsi.
Perfect. Thank you.
So I definitely watched the video, and I'm not going to lie, I have a huge soft spot in media for like father-son moments. Hell, I got teary-eyed at your video, Bucky. It was phenomenal. It was great. But also in the back of my head,
best video for World Cup qualifiers, hands down.
But
so
also
far.
in the back of my head, the whole time
Ceice.
I was like, this is going to be a problem. This is going to be a problem, right? Like in that video, his dad was mostly like helping keep him calm and stuff. His like, understanding of the game wasn't like so deep that he could really be giving incredible pointers or anything, right? But that's definitely going to be something. We've talked a lot about the pitfalls of open online qualifiers and how there's no way to prevent this from happening, right? But it does open up the question to what is a coach's role? Does a coach have a role in moment-to-moment gameplay on LAN?
I think, well, on LAN, it could be different. I think that it's huge online, right? Not huge, but it can help you a lot to be talking to like 1 or 2 people. I feel like I feel, in solos at least, I feel like a lot more focused. And obviously, like, you have the times like, hey, like I'm about to get an in-game, like, I want to focus or whatever, you meet up. But like having someone like that's there and you can just talk, and obviously you're not like cheating or like hopefully you're not in the same game, but like I think that like to talk to somebody to relieve some of the stress that you might be having and like the thoughts, like, because definitely you can get in your own head very easily in solos.
So that is definitely different than the situation of literally somebody coaching you, right? So like, how do you feel about somebody actually watching your game and giving you feedback as you play, right? Because I think we've seen the Discord calls, the Discord cliques, and solos being very helpful, and everybody does it at this point because it's just so useful. But what about people actually helping each other, watching their games and giving feedback?
Not in solos, I don't think. I don't think in duos either. I don't think it has a role. So you
think it's a problem?
I think, yeah. Well, I think you can have a coach in Fortnite competitive when there are like breaks. Like say there's like a 6-game tournament, like 3 games in, you could have a break and your coach could like, he's watching all 4 of you guys and he's, listening and whatnot. Like I think that could be useful. And it's someone else to get an opinion from, but yeah, I don't think the
traditional like esport coach role.
During the game, I don't think you should be able to like have comms from somebody who's like smart and knows what he's doing. I think Bucky's video is obviously not that, but yeah, I think it's like the similar situation, like Bucky's being in a Discord with his dad, basically. Like he's just keeping him more calm and focused.
I don't know if it was specifically that though. Like his dad was legit saying, "Don't push this guy. Don't be stupid. Don't push this guy." Like that is very clear to me that is coaching advice.
Whether or not it's good advice is
but
irrelevant, right? It was.
Does he know what he's?
Right.
Does he know what he's saying though? Like
it doesn't matter, right? That's what Tim's saying. Like this, he's actually influencing Bucky's decision, right, to not push somebody or whatever. The other way around too. It could be the same thing.
Whatever
but he's also keeping tabs on, hey, you're about to hit top 10, you're about to hit top 15, you're about to hit blah blah blah. Like,
even
all
just
the
that,
thresholds.
yeah.
Max,
I definitely
everything.
I definitely think valuable.
Like that's not okay. I feel like that's not a good thing. I don't think.
I fucking disagree with this shit right
think?
here,
Like,
man. I think this is so cool, man. I think this could push people to be the best version of the pro player that they can be, right? There's not many other games where that situation is actually valuable, right? Because you have to make everything so basically slowly you're making these decisions. You're seeing what other people are doing.
Yeah, but that sets apart people from like being the best. Like if you're the best, you can realize under pressure. What do you mean so what? Like
so what? It's now a team. Yeah. Now it's a team game. Like sure, okay,
you're solo.
Solos is solos. I understand that solos should probably be solos, but why? Like for a trio to have a fucking coach in their ear and watching their game.
I think trios and squad could be good.
I think coach performance at its peak, right? If everyone on the team is cracked, including the coach, right? And I could see this quick race to the bottom where the actual players just become mechanic monkeys, right? Like, and they just solely rely on their coach to tell them where to rotate, when to rotate, how to rotate, give them the call outs, that kind of stuff, when to do things, how to do things, and all the players have to do is grind builds and aim, right? Like I could see that though. Like in an ideal world, if it's the best coach and it's the best players, that's gonna be like the situation.
There's no way a coach can be that good at doing at telling people what to do in situations in endgame. That's impossible. I don't think it's impossible. An ideal coach.
But you can't have 4 PG warriors or 3 PG warriors or 2. Like you can't have a team of. I don't think you can have a team of just like they're insane at builds but can't think their way through situations. Like you're just not. I don't think you'll do well. I don't think you could have a trio with 3 like insanely mechanical players that can't really like lead themselves through the game, but they have a coach. I don't think that'll work because in those split-second decisions, like you have to be able to make the right choice. And if you have players that aren't very smart, but they have a coach that can try to micromanage that, it just won't happen. Like it's you need like a mix between, and that's why I think trios will be good because you can have like a less mechanical player but a really smart player or whatever. Like you don't have to have the most mechanics to do well. I think in duos and solos, mechanics are a lot, but yeah.
I think especially as we explore more team competitive modes, I'm personally more in favor of coaching feedback post every match, every game, right? Whatever the amount of time that looks like, 5-10 minutes, something like that.
How does it work in League? How do coaches work?
It's just that. So coaches calm during the pick and ban phase. And then they're off. Then they're off the stage, and they're off. They can, they watch the game, and I think they can listen to comms. And then after every game, like best of 3, best of 5, whatever. After every game, there's a break. I think it's like 15 minutes. Where the coach will grill them like, you didn't communicate, you didn't do this, do that better. Let's get the next game.
There was a period in time in Counter-Strike where live coaching was a thing, where they would be there every single round and they'd walk people through the rounds and they would figure things out. That was a thing for a while, and then Valve stepped in and said you can't talk except during freeze time. Or no, sorry, I think they could talk only in freeze time, which is cool. So like the beginning of the round, every single round, and then Valve stepped in and said you can only talk during timeouts. You can only be useful during timeouts.
I think that's like the best. I think that's my bad.
No, you're good. There is no timeouts in Fortnite though, so it has to be the League situation where it's before and after the game you end up discussing. And to me, that's not even useful in Fortnite, right? There's no strategy pre-game besides like, okay, this drop to do a better drop here, like do this split. This is going to be better against this team. And it's all improv. It's all figuring out. Did I just crash?
Yeah, you're lagging.
Hello?
You're stuttering. You're stuttering, but we got your audio still.
Okay. So like there's no room to me for that before and after coach in Fortnite. That's why I feel like live coaching has to be the way. Or it's just, it's more of an analyst than a coach. It's more of a here's some new techniques, here's what you guys need to do better, here's this, here's that. Because otherwise I don't feel like there's a coach role at all because of the fact that there's no breaks and there's very few opportunities to get in there. It's not like there's rounds. It's not like there's timeouts or anything like that.
I mean, in a situation where you are playing like in a New York finals situation, right, where you're playing 6, 10, however many matches against the same 100 players, you do get a little more, like, that becomes a little more useful. I think that becomes significantly more useful, right? Because now you can make actual intelligent, like, okay, these guys landed here this game, and they caused you trouble when you were rotating through here. So it's, you guys need to make a smarter play. Like, I think there's still a lot of room for that to be useful.
Only based on what your team knows, though, right? It's not like you get the information the entire game, because if your coach is watching the entire game, that is complete BS, right? Yeah. That is, you shouldn't have that information as a player. So like the only information you get as a coach is the plays that you end up playing inside that game one. So it's really like, okay, you fought this team off spawn, cool. Like, don't fight them.
I don't think a coach has much of a role in a battle royale. I feel like that's like not like that's why I like playing battle royales. I don't think I'd want a coach. Like, I think it's like that's what, like I said this earlier, but like it makes you the best player. Like that's what separates the good from the great. Like having a coach just is something that you don't. I don't think it fits in battle royales. Like you should have to make those decisions, and if you're in your own head, then that's your own, like, I don't know. You shouldn't be having someone like talk to you and like calm you down. I feel like that's why, I don't know. It's battle royales. Like you're in the moment, and you gotta think the best.
I feel like this is more of an esport things in general, right? Because there's no substitutions. There's no managing a team that a coach usually would do in traditional sports. So I feel like when we actually think about it and look at the rest of the games and look at the rest of the esports, there is no actual live coaching role in any game because people have decided that what Ceice has said is correct.
Yep.
But in my opinion, I feel like in BRs it's actually, or at least in Fortnite, not in BRs in general, because Fortnite is its own special beast, man. Fortnite is, you have to do so many things at the same time in endgame and be so mechanically good and be so quick with your decisions and all sorts of awareness and checklists that you have to go through.
But most of those things,
decisions.
most of these things you're mentioning aren't really things that the coach is going to be able to help with, right? Any of these.
Of course it is. Yes, of course it is. I specifically remember, like, in the Microsoft tournament, in it was squads, right? And there was many games where I ended up going down early before the reboot ban was a thing, and I ended up just walking around with my headset and talking to my team, being like, okay, hey, you need to split mats, you need to do this, you need to do that, like, watch out to your right, okay, build up, okay, get position. Like these little reminders are things that a coach can do.
That's definitely value.
Honestly, like that's what happens when your IGL goes squad anyways. Like, he's gonna get up and he's gonna walk around. He's gonna like treat it as he's a coach.
Yeah.
So there's that element already too. Like the IGL is already that live coaching role.
It's pretty interesting. I wonder. I mean, because like I can't imagine a future where Fortnite. Well, okay. I don't know if I can imagine this future at this point, but I can dream of a future where, say trios happens and there's always a fourth slot where your coach drops in and they're watching like the live streaming replay or something, or even just like live spectating the game, like a dead player would, and they're in the party, voice comms and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's doable if they wanted to do it. So far, no.
I want to see it tried. I think it would be really interesting. The biggest hurdle for me is the fact that not everybody would be able to afford a coach or be able to have a coach at all, or even know somebody who would be willing to coach them, especially in a mode where there'd be 50 possible duos and each of those would need a coach. In
Yeah.
trios, it becomes more manageable. In squads, it becomes more manageable as well. But it would totally be an unfair advantage for somebody to have a coach and somebody else not to have a coach.
Yeah, I agree with that. There would definitely be times where people don't have coaches, and when it comes to smaller groups. But I think that I feel like Fortnite's definitely going to be around. I think competitive Fortnite will be around for years. I think that they could introduce something like that a year from now, because there's definitely going to be retired players or like people that are moving to more like of an analyst style. Like they don't really want to play competitive anymore, but they still like watch it and they still know what they're doing, or like they did like just old players retiring basically. I think that like a lot of other games like
Calling me
Fortnite's
old
so new.
Cease? What the fuck, bro?
Fortnite
Come on, man.
is so new. Like all these games that we're talking about, like CS:GO and League, and like just any big esport game that like has a big prize pool or a large audience, like it's been around for so long. There's actual people who are willing to coach. Like right now, I don't know anybody that would want to coach.
I think there's plenty of people who want to coach. All we have to look at is the explosion in VOD reviewing, right? Like where there's a market, people will step in to fill it, and it's a pretty different skill from just being good at the game, right? Like being good at the game encompasses so much more than this potential sort of coaching position we're talking about. If it was a thing tomorrow, if it was for having trio tournaments and a fourth person gets to hop into the game with you, I think you would have. I don't think it would be difficult.
I think you're underestimating.
It might be hard to find someone good, but that's just because it would be new, right? Like, and that's just kind of part of talent seeking and stuff. And
yeah, I guess
I can already name coaches off the top of my head, like plenty of people who are willing to hop in that role, and I think that type of analyst role is probably the most popular because it still has that competitive aspect to it, right?
Here's something interesting.
To compete.
Yes. And you mentioned analysts, and then Ceice, you've talked about like trying to be 200 IQ and ahead of the curve. I think that especially if the rate of additions to the game and changes keeps up, we're going to maybe see a bigger importance on like support staff, generally speaking. Could you imagine like Combat Shotgun comes out, right? And Speedy does a ton of posts on pullout times compared to tac shotgun and like time to kill with all the different swaps and that kind of stuff. Maybe that specific metric isn't the most like super groundbreaking, but though that sort of information is going to be valuable to have before anybody else. You know what I mean? If something comes out on Monday and there's an event on Friday and you've got the analyst in your pocket who is in creative all day long, figuring out the exploits, figuring out the new phase trick, and it's yours. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I guess backtracking a little bit on what I said earlier, I think that there could be, I don't know, there are definitely a lot of coaches out there. Like, I'm sure you have many to name, Balla, but like, and Battle Royale is like a similar genre. Like, there's a lot of games that have done well that are Battle Royales. So I think you could get an analyst or someone that knows like what they're doing, or someone like, I don't know, a coach for PUBG, like, plays a little bit of Fortnite here and there. And like, I think he could be a coach. I think you can get an analyst from almost anywhere. Just like trying to find the exploits and watching a lot of people's VODs. Like, I don't know. I think
there's a lot of people doing that, man. The amount of DMs I get of people like, hey, I want to do this. Like, there's tons of these people. Like you'll find, like you said, old players or any. I'd be hard pressed to ask chat right now and be like, how many of you guys would be interested in being a coach? I guarantee you a few people would say, yeah, I definitely would want to be a coach. And it's just good. It would just be a competition to be the best. And competition among coaches is usually a little bit tough because it's hard to find out who is actually good at their job.
Sure.
Anyways,
I hope coaching does become a thing though. At the end, like overall, I think that like that's something that I remember getting into Fortnite and like in any other game. I feel like I would love. I mean, I don't know. I've seen a lot of other games of where they have coaches, but like it's always like veteran players. Like I'd love to be in that role someday, like a year or two from now, and like I'm done. Like I don't really want to play competitive, or like maybe I've lost my like.
I've won World Cup a couple times. I already have tens of millions of dollars. Like,
you could fall into that role, and it could be more relaxed. You don't have to be on that. Like I actually would really like that.
Yeah. You're doing research and stuff more than you're like practicing mechanics. Or
exactly.
Yeah, I think it's the value of these sort of support players, whether it's coaches and analysts and stuff, supporting specific players or teams or whatever, is only going to increase over time. unless Epic does something like, we're only going to make a change to the game once every 3 months, and then value diminishes significantly, right? But even just like meta watch, right? Like, people like to rotate through here if they land here. Like, that's super valuable work that like the best players are doing, right? The best players are preparing, and like,
Yeah, having someone that can do that for you, like, actually gets. I know convertibles like, I've heard that he has like statistics, and I forget who else, but it's the boxer
Oh,
coach, isn't it?
there
No,
have been
E11.
plenty of
It's the E11 guy has like
formerly.
actual stats on like the chance of getting like a shield drop or something like that. Like,
Oh, I
that's
think you're
something
thinking of
that's
Ginger Pop, who helped
no, formerly.
formerly. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
anyways, there's tons of these, right?
Yeah.
Donnie on Complexity, like formerly on E11, Ginger Pop on Rogue. I mean, I've done work for some people as well. Like,
Yeah.
there's tons of people who have already actually. I know for a
Tins.
fact that Team Liquid has already, has invested in work. FaZe has invested in people's work as well,
Yep.
and I think the results are clear from that. Not necessarily always leading to a tournament win, but it's battle royale, so like it always just helps. I don't
Any
think
extra
you'll find
knowledge
it.
is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a game of cumulative advantages, right? To overcome your opponents and the RNG you face in any given match. Something interesting I want to talk about, guys, is obviously we're talking about everything today in light of Battle Royale, but Epic, especially in their AMA and then also in the Pro-Am, right? They're pushing a lot of different creative modes, and they've talked about exploring competitive creative modes. What is that? How does that appeal to you guys? Like, are you excited for a team deathmatch or a Battlefield Rush style? Are you excited to the point where you would rather be playing that game competitively than Fortnite Battle Royale?
Definitely. I think that'd be sick. Like a capture the flag, like something that, because Battle Royale, like, it's like basically like what creative has opened up, or like this part of creative for competitive is like you can, I don't know, Battle Royales are so RNG, and you can make that not RNG by like doing like capture the flag and like actual strategies, and like, but you'd need like, I feel like you'd need more things that like CSGO has, like smokes and like maybe flashes or something. I don't know, something to like, maybe
Sure.
not exactly that, but you probably would need something for like those modes to do well.
Whatever
in
the
competitive.
specific mode is, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
It
I'm
would just
really
be build
interested
fights
in...
then.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm really interested in like round-based modes and things with objectives, and capture the flag has never appealed to me specifically, but I think there's room out there, and it just takes people making it, but more importantly, it takes people willing to test it competitively, right?
Yeah.
Like if you make something and then you just like hop in FNPL creative and grab a bunch of randos, like, you're not going to have any clue how that actually feels and fits as a competitive like sport, you know? And so I think that, I don't know, Balla, what are your opinions?
I am always excited for what the community can do with the game, because all the best esports have been grown out of a normal, pretty stale game, or maybe even single player game that ended up being modded and going from there, right? Counter-Strike was a Half-Life mod, okay? Dota and to some extent League was because of a Warcraft 3 mod. Right now, there's a game coming out with the Dota 2 Auto Chess, which is a mod of a mod that is fucking really popular and also possibly very competitive as well. That League of Legends came out with their own version. So I'm always very excited for what the community can do with the game. Specifically, these competitive modes that people are throwing out there, like team deathmatch, or like a bomb defusal version of Fortnite. I think those are. I feel like those could be interesting, as long as building gets limited to make it so that building is not the. I worry about all these modes getting really fucking boring really fast, because building just ends up being that you're just gonna build fight each other, and then it's like a weird like build fight simulator, and that is really boring. Like the
Yeah.
1v1 modes sound fucking awful. Like, they sound really, 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 really boring, because I know it's just gonna end up being build fight. Okay, cool.
If
He
you
just
couldn't
got a cone. Nice. Like,
if you couldn't build and it was just mechanics, I don't think it would fit in Fortnite
that
at
would
all.
be so lame, because Bloom is a thing.
Yeah.
There's no advanced
RNG,
movement mechanics. That's the tough thing for anyone out there who's trying to develop a competitive game mode. Like that is like the hardest thing to balance. You have to have a vision for what your game mode is trying to accomplish, and you have to figure out a way to incentivize strategic and interesting plays that aren't just let's build fight, but still utilize what makes Fortnite incredible, fun at all, which is you going for a high five there, Balla?
No, sorry. I just sure. High five. No, but what you're saying is true, right? You have to have these considerations or whatever. But right now, I don't see this happening in any sort of shape or form because not only are the tools not there, but is the support really there from Epic? There's no third-party spectating systems yet. There's no actual modability of the game. It's just forced into creative mode, which makes it so that Epic is going to control everything in regards to it. So there's not really somewhere where anything can grow organically like those other mods. And that not only de-incentivizes people to do it, but it also just makes it really hard for them. And fortunately, there are other incentives like supported creator, which make it worth it for somebody to invest their time in, like Donnie working on Storm Wars and all sorts of other people and creators like the Team Evolved who did the Creator Showdown map. There's incentive for them to do it monetarily, but there isn't really like that idea of I'm gonna make the next big thing. I'm gonna make the next big Fortnite game mode. I find that really hard to believe right now as it currently stands with the tools that they have.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point, right? Like, you'll never have something really solid and really community-owned unless we get the ability to do things like adjust how much ammo is in a SCAR and adjust how much build damage a minigun does and all these sort of, like, bits of minutia.
Spectate.
Yeah, and a spectating system, right? Like, there's still a lot missing before something can really take off, and it almost... I mean, they're definitely not ditching creative, right? I've heard it said many times before that creative is like their golden pony for the future, right? Like they're a little scared Battle Royale might die out someday. That's fine. They got creative, right? Like that's where so many non-competitive players are right now.
Yep.
All right. Well, this has been a fantastic evening. I want to give you guys a chance to plug and sign off here. But first, I want to ask you, Ceice, as short and sweet as you can here, is Creative Showdown the format? Is that the competitive future?
No, I don't think. I think Battle Royale, like they're doing enough in Battle Royales right now, like with the new, like the way they do their items and stuff. I think it could last for a while. So definitely not.
Balla, Creative Showdown, 6 teams of 4.
No, BR has the potential to be something that we have never seen before, and I know that that term gets thrown around a lot, but it really could be the best competitive game of all time. But we need to push it to get there, and I don't think we're currently utilizing that potential.
Yeah. There's a track laid out. It's possible, and it's just a struggle, a fight to keep this train on those tracks, right? All right, well, Ceice, thank you so much for being on this episode of Hotline FN. I've had a fantastic time. It's been a great evening. What are you up to in the future, and where can people catch you being up to it?
Well, in the close future, obviously the World Cup, and after that, I don't know. I'm just gonna keep playing the game, grinding, trying to become the best, and yeah.
You mean you're not quitting the Monday following World Cup?
No.
That's a hot take. All right, Ceice. Thank you so much. Oh yeah, where?
At Ceice on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all that stuff.
Twitch.
Twitch, yeah. At Ceice.
Do you have a stream schedule yet, Ceice?
Nope. Not with World Cup. After probably, but not now. So
nice.
You're such a bad content creator. I don't even.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Thank you so much for being on, Ceice. I hope you have a fantastic evening.
Thank you, boss.
All right, Balla. Now that we're alone, what are you up to? What do you got going on in the near future? Yeah. Get a little close.
Well, Tim, I got a hotel room that's wide open right now.
Whoa. Is that an invite?
Nah, man. I'm casting week 10. A couple of interviews, a few podcasts here and there. I think I'm going to be doing the 11 podcast tomorrow, recording that or
Nice.
doing that live, whatever it is. I don't know, but that's going to be tomorrow, so you can find me there. Then casting World Cup on week 10. And then I will be back on Saturday. I'm going to take a little bit of break on the weekend because I did just have a marathon of events out here in LA. I've been out here for 2 weeks. That's why you haven't seen me uploading or anything like that. But I'll be back in action hopefully by Monday, doing some VOD reviews and some other stuff. Because why are we VOD reviewing anymore when there's no World Cup qualifiers? Maybe Ceice still needs it. But yeah, you can find me twitch.tv/BallaTW, twitter.com, BallaTW everywhere, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, everything. And I'll be back Monday. But you can catch me on twitch.tv/Fortnite on Friday at I think we start at 10 a.m. Pacific. So make sure you catch that. It's gonna be a great time.
Finals only this week, right? Finals only.
Yep. Finals only.
Fantastic. All right. Well, Balla, thanks for the incredible evening, and thanks for being the co-host here on Hotline FN.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. That's the end of the show. Thanks so much for watching, for hanging out, for submitting your topics, for calling in, for being active in chat. As always, if you enjoy the show, make sure you do things that help keep the show going. Primarily, that is following and subscribing on Twitch. That is liking and subscribing on YouTube. Listening on Audio Boom. Telling a bunch of your friends about it, right? Because I love doing this, and I know Balla loves doing this, and Ceice probably loved doing it. So let's keep it rolling, right? Okay. That said, make sure you check out everybody who's on the show tonight. Balla and Ceice, both incredible guys. I had a lot of fun with them this evening. Show them twice as much love as you're willing to show me. That said, we'll have the show live again next week with some phenomenal guests, I'm sure. Always add us on Twitter, primarily twitter.com/BallaTW and Timmcd. Tell us who you want to see on the show. Add them. At them, at me, at everybody. Let's make it happen. The people you want to see, the people who you want to shout your hot takes at, let's get them on this show. Okay. All that being said, stick around for some sweet tunes, and thank you for watching Hotline FN.